My name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 35 and I built a life most people would call untouchable. 6 months ago, my husband vanished in the middle of the night. He didn't leave a note. He didn't leave a trace. Just divorce papers signed in his name, sitting on our table like a cold conclusion I hadn't agreed to. My father didn't hesitate. He told me not to wait. Called Julian a mistake, a man who never deserved our name. But I didn't sign. I couldn't. Because the man I married wasn't the kind who disappears without a reason. Then 6 months later I found him. Not in some distant city. Not hiding. Working. On one of my construction sites. Wearing a hard hat. Covered in dust. Just another laborer among hundreds. And when he finally told me why he left that night, everything inside me went still. People think money solves things. It doesn't. It just hides the cracks better. I was born into power. My father built one of the largest real estate empires in the country. By 30, I was already running a major part of it. The media loved me, young billionaire, industry disruptor, the future of the company. But none of that ever mattered as much as my family. Julian was nothing like the world I came from. No wealth. No connections. No polished image. The first time my father met him, he barely concealed his disapproval. Later, he told me quietly, "Men like him don't belong in our world." Julian never tried to belong. He was steady. Kind. The kind of man who fixed things himself instead of calling someone else to do it. The kind who remembered small details. Who could make our daughter Lily laugh even on her worst days. That's why I loved him. We were married for 7 years. Lily had just turned 5. From the outside it looked perfect. But inside my father's house there was always tension. Quiet, constant, unavoidable. My father never truly accepted him. One night after Julian left the table early to put Lily to bed, my father leaned toward me, his voice low and precise. "You still have time to fix this mistake." I stared at him. "You mean my marriage? You should be with someone who strengthens the empire," he said. "My best friend's son would be appropriate. I'm already married. You can change that." "I love Julian," I said. He leaned back unfazed. "Love doesn't build empires." I didn't respond. But I never forgot. So life moved forward. Julian and I focused on what mattered. Our daughter, our quiet routines, the small moments that felt real. Until the night everything broke. It was raining when I got home. Late. The kind of night where the house should feel warm. Instead it was silent. Too silent. "Julian." I called. Nothing. I stepped into the living room and saw the envelope on the table. My name written across it. Something in me already knew. Inside, divorce papers. Signed. My pulse roared in my ears. I searched the house. His clothes were gone. His phone was off. Lily's room. Empty. Her suitcase was gone too. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I called him again and again. Nothing. I reached out to everyone I could think of. No one had answers. The night blurred into panic. By morning my father was standing in my living room as if he'd been expecting this. He looked at the papers inside. "So. He finally did it." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" "He left," he said simply. "Men like him always do." "He took Lily," I whispered. "He'll bring her back," my father replied, dismissive. Then he picked up the papers and held them out to me. "You should sign these." I looked at him like I didn't recognize him. "What?" "Don't waste your time waiting for someone like that." Anger rose, sharp and steady. "He's my husband." "He was your husband," my father corrected. I pushed the papers away. "No." His expression hardened, but for the first time so did mine. "You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm not signing anything," I said, my voice steady. "He already left you." "Then I'll find him." My father let out a quiet, almost amused laugh. "You're a billionaire, Claire. Are you really going to chase a man who ran away from you?" But I knew Julian. Whatever this was, it wasn't that simple. He wouldn't disappear without a reason. Not without a word. I folded the papers carefully and set them back on the table. "I'm not signing," I repeated. He studied me for a long moment, then shook his head. "You'll regret this." Maybe he thought I'd give up in a few days. He didn't understand that love doesn't shut off on command. I wasn't walking away. Not without answers. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. 6 months passed. No calls. No messages. No trace. Until the day everything stopped. I was visiting one of our construction sites. A routine inspection. One of our largest developments on the edge of the city. Millions invested. Deadlines to meet. Meetings scheduled. It should have been just another day. The site was alive with noise. Machines roaring, workers moving, metal clanging against metal. I stepped out of my car in a simple suit, a white safety helmet placed on my head. The site manager walked beside me talking through timelines and progress. "We're ahead of schedule, Miss Whitmore," he said proudly. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Even after 6 months, part of me was still searching. In crowds. In passing faces. In places I didn't even realize I was looking. We moved deeper into the site. Dust hung in the air. Workers moved between unfinished walls and steel frames. And then, I stopped. Across the site, a man lifted a heavy bag of cement onto his shoulder. His clothes were worn. His hair longer than I remembered. His face covered in dust. But I knew him. Even from a distance. Even after 6 months. Julian. For a second my mind refused to accept it. My husband, the man who used to sit beside me at formal dinners, who belonged in tailored suits and quiet conversations, was standing there in work boots, blending into a crowd of laborers. "Miss Whitmore?" the manager asked, confused. I didn't answer. I was already moving. Fast. My heels sank slightly into the dirt as I crossed the site. Pose. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out everything else. Julian shifted the weight on his shoulder, and then he saw me. He froze. The bag slipped from his grip and hit the ground with a heavy thud. Nearby workers glanced over, confused, but I didn't see them. I only saw him. 6 months of silence. 6 months of questions. 6 months of being left behind. And now he was right in front of me. The anger hit all at once. Before I could stop myself, my hand moved. The sound of the slap cut through the noise of the entire site. Julian didn't flinch. Didn't defend himself. He just stood there looking at me. His eyes, they weren't the same. They were tired. Empty in a way I didn't understand. "Why?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Why did you do this?" The workers had stopped now. Watching. I didn't care. "You disappeared," I said louder. "You took our daughter. You left divorce papers like I meant nothing." He said nothing. That silence made everything worse. "I looked for you," I continued, my voice breaking despite myself. "For 6 months, Julian. 6 months." Finally he spoke. "Clara, lower your voice. Don't tell me what to do." My hands were trembling. "You think you can just walk out of our lives and then stand here like nothing happened?" He looked down for a moment, then back at me. "You shouldn't have found me." The words landed like another blow. What does that even mean? He took a slow breath, glancing around at the people watching us. "Not here," he said quietly. "Here," I insisted. "Now." He looked at me, really looked this time. Maybe he realized I wasn't leaving. Finally he spoke again. "Your father came to see me the night before I left." Everything inside me paused. "My father?" Julian nodded. "He didn't come alone." A cold feeling crept into my chest. "What are you saying?" His voice dropped, heavier now. "He brought 2 men with him." My stomach tightened. "He told me something very simple," Julian said. "If I didn't disappear from your life, he would make sure our daughter never saw another birthday." For a second I couldn't process it. "What?" "He said I was a stain on your family name," Julian continued quietly, "and that he'd erase me, one way or another. He said I was embarrassing his empire." My pulse quickened. "He wanted you to marry his best friend's son," Julian added. "The same man my father had mentioned months ago." Suddenly everything started to make sense. Julian continued, his voice steady but heavy. "He told me to sign the divorce papers and leave quietly." My throat went dry. "And if you didn't?" Julian held my gaze. "Then Lily would disappear." The world around me went silent. The machines, the workers, the noise. Gone. Only his words remained. "He warned me not to tell you," Julian said. "He said if you ever found out, his people would know." My chest tightened. "So you just left?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. He nodded slowly. "I didn't have a choice." His voice cracked just enough to hurt. I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you both safe. I stared at him. This wasn't the man I remembered. The calm, steady husband who stood beside me without fear. This man looked worn down, like the past 6 months had taken everything out of him piece by piece. I've been working like this for 4 months, he said quietly. Moving from site to site so your father's people couldn't track me. My hands fell to my sides. My father. The man I trusted my entire life. The man who told me Julian had left for another woman. The man who pushed those divorce papers into my hands like it was nothing. Julian studied my face. You didn't know, he said softly. I shook my head. No, I whispered. I didn't. And the truth hit me all at once, so hard it stole the air from my lungs. For a few seconds I couldn't speak. I just stood there looking at him. Dust clung to his clothes. His hands were rough, worn. His face. Older, tired in a way that 6 months shouldn't be able to do to someone. 6 months. He'd been living like this for 6 months. Not by choice. As my father forced him to. I thought you stopped loving me, I said quietly. Julian shook his head immediately. Clara, I never stopped loving you. His voice was low, certain. I left because I thought it was the only way to protect you and Lily. Tears filled my eyes. Where is she? I asked quickly. His expression softened. She's safe. I left her with my sister. Your father's people don't know about her. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost gave out. My daughter was safe. But something else was rising now, something sharper than grief. Bigger. Not at Julian. And my father. For 6 months he watched me suffer. Watched me search. Watched me break. And said nothing. Instead he repeated the same lie over and over. He left you for money. My hands slowly curled into fists. Julian looked at me carefully. What are you thinking? I wiped my tears, my voice turning steady. I'm thinking, my father believes he controls my life. Julian frowned. Clara, don't do anything reckless. I met his eyes. For 6 months I believed you abandoned me, I said, my tone hardening. Now I know the truth. Julian didn't respond. But he didn't need to. As for the first time, I wasn't confused anymore. I was clear. I'm not letting him destroy our family. That night I made a few quiet calls. By the next week my father hosted one of his grand gatherings. His mansion filled with relatives, business partners, and the usual audience he liked to impress. Crystal glasses, polished smiles, expensive conversations. And right beside him, exactly where he wanted him, stood his best friend's son. The man he'd already chosen for me. My father moved through the room with confidence, greeting guests like everything in his world was exactly where it belonged. According to him it was. When I walked in the room shifted. Heads turned. Conversations slowed. Clara, my father said, smiling like he'd already won. You're finally here. His eyes scanned my face. You look better. I assume you've accepted reality. I didn't answer. I just walked toward him. The room grew quieter with every step. He noticed it, lifted his glass slightly and addressed the crowd. I was just telling everyone. My daughter is about to make a decision that will strengthen our family's future. I glanced around. Every eye was on me. Good. Actually, I said calmly, I have something to say too. His smile faltered. What is it? I took a breath. For 6 months, I began, my father told me my husband left because he wanted money. A few people shifted uncomfortably. My father's jaw tightened. Clara. He called him a beggar, I continued. Glances started passing between guests. And he pushed me to sign divorce papers. My father stepped closer. That's enough. But I didn't stop. Do you know what really happened? I asked the room. Silence. Then I looked straight at him. You threatened him. A ripple of whispers spread instantly. You told him that if he didn't disappear, I said slowly, you would make sure his daughter never saw another birthday. My father's face drained of color. That's a lie, he snapped, but the confidence was gone. I stepped closer. The man you called worthless spent 6 months working as a construction laborer just to protect his family. The room went still. His closest friends stared at him. His best friend slowly lowered his glass. You destroyed my marriage, I said. You made me believe my husband betrayed me. My father clenched his jaw. I did what was best for you. No, I said steady and clear. You did what was best for your business. The truth hung heavy in the air. Slowly, I removed the diamond ring he had given me years ago, the symbol of everything he valued, and placed it on the table. You can keep your empire. Gasps echoed around the room. He stared at me, disbelief written all over his face. You're being emotional. I shook my head. No. Then I said the only thing that ever mattered. I choose my family. I turned toward the door. And my family isn't in this house. His voice followed me, sharp and final. If you walk out now, don't expect to come back. I paused for half a second. But I didn't turn around. I kept walking. Outside the gates, a car was waiting. Julian stood beside it. Clean clothes now, but the same tired eyes, the same quiet strength. When he saw me, uncertainty crossed his face. I stopped in front of him. Are you ready to go home? I asked. He blinked. Home. I smiled just a little. Wherever we go together. For a moment he said nothing. Then he nodded. We got into the car and drove away, leaving behind the mansion, the empire, and the man who thought power meant everything. But the truth was simple. The man my father called a beggar was the only man who ever truly loved me.